when time is ticking and you know you've got that one opportunity, that one chance, and how many times have we seen it down the years where it's skied into the Kop, skied into the cowsheds, or it's skied if you were playing away from home, it's well wide or over the bar. It was just one of them perfect moments, Matt. How did I feel? I don't know how I felt. I'm still on cloud nine right now. I think my initial thought was, where are the kids? Because your daughter was there. And my youngest was there. We were on an open terrace. It's a concrete terrace. I was just thinking, can we make sure that no one piles on and they get knocked over and bump heads and things like that? But no, what a moment! What a moment! And it football has that ability to recreate. It has that ability to sort of create moments like that can never ever be replicated. Anyone that's been in an away end or in a home end, when you get a last gasp equaliser or a last gasp winner, there's no better feeling if you're a football fan. And would it have meant the same in November? Maybe not. Maybe it's the enormity of it's the business end of the season. We know we're precariously close to the relegation zone, and even though our form's been decent recently, that they're one of them games that come around very, very every few years, perhaps. When you're 3-0 down and you come back to 3-3, you've got to embrace it, and just all the fans embraced each other, and that's the great thing. It's fabulous and absolutely made up for everyone.
It was a wonderful moment. I had said to my daughter a couple of minutes earlier, because it was her first away game today, and at half-time she was probably wishing she'd never watched or heard of Tranmere Rovers, but by full-time she was very much embracing it and enjoying it. But her and your little daughter, Ellie, were intent on sitting down on the terrace by the time the game was ticking towards its conclusion. And I said to her, I think it might be worth standing up at this point, because Tranmere got a couple of corners. And she said, why? I said, if one of these goes in the back of the net, there's a lot of people who are going to get very excited. And lo and behold, wasn't from a corner, but they did put the ball in the back of the net. And I, after the initial moment had not worn off as such, but once you'd recollected your senses, I was scanning around to see where my daughter was, and you had her in one arm and Ellie in the other, and you were just bouncing up and down. And a few of the listeners to this podcast came up to me, and Les Sands, I know, listens, gave me a big hug, and there were a few others as well. So to all of you who I bumped into or spoke to at Accrington today, it was great to meet all of you and share that wonderful moment, because it doesn't come around often. And I've been delving into the history books to find out the history behind it from a Tranmere point of view. So the last time Tranmere avoided defeat, having been 3 or more goals behind, was the 3-3 FA Cup third round draw at Watford in January 2020, where Connor Jennings and Kieran Morris both featured, and Tranmere were 3-0 down. I think I'm right in saying at half time. I cannot find an instance of it happening in the Football League since at least 1992. Now, if you go beyond 1992, it's very hard to find games with a timestamp for the goals on them. The internet is a wonderful thing for game history for Tranmere. If you go on Soccerbase or Soccerway or other websites, you can delve back and have a look at when things have happened to find patterns and results. But unfortunately, pre about 97, they don't give you the timestamp for the goals. Most of them. There've been a couple of instances of games since then where there's been a timestamp. There was a 4-3 over Portsmouth, for example, in 1996, where I could work it out. But if we go beyond 1992, I cannot find an instance of Tranmere coming from behind from 3 or more goals down to avoid defeat. So we're talking something that is, in Football League terms, from a Tranmere point of view, very, very rare today, Craig. History happened before us.
Yeah, I suppose it just rubber stamps that sort of thing I said before about how they're few and far between, these games. When you can come from a goal behind and win 2-1 and feel great as a fan. 2-0 down to draw 2-2, great, but 3-0 generally, and it doesn't matter again whether you're top, middle, and bottom in terms of the footballing pyramid, the game should be done. If you manage the game well, a 3-0 up, you should get the 3 points. But going back to 2020, it's 5 years ago since. I know, and again, that was a fabulous day at Watford. I know it's been spoken about before on the podcast. Barrow 2016 under Brabham, 3-1 down, so late on. Again, they were the National League days. But an enormity of what it meant today, being so close to the end of the season with Tranmere desperately looking for points to stay in the division and stay in the Football League. I can't remember a game where there's such enormity on the result in terms of coming back from such a deficit. So I think the fans just got on that today. I think certainly travelling back on the trains, there was an atmosphere that felt like there was something on that game today. And it's not over yet, of course. We still need to get ourselves over the line, but whenever a draw feels like a win, it was definitely today.